Got to start sharing the show across the world. We had a little issue with the internet stuff, and we'll see how the show goes. It should be fine. I switched internet providers. I went from T-Mobile to Verizon, but should be good. If you want them, like it's up to you. It just you can just hear her and me and you better, but then we're good. Her, you, I, and me, and we. You been out on the bike yet, right? I rode mine tonight. Are you? I can't. I can't. I was gone from work for 6 days because tomorrow we have 7 move outs, and tomorrow and Saturday we have 9 move-ins. So I'm on call. I know I'm going to be pretty busy. That's why I had Friday off, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday off as well. Um,
Chapter 5.
That's what I just asked you.
No, chapter 6.
All
You're
right.
on 5. We did this last week. Remember you
No, we're
said-
doing step 5.
Yeah.
Chapter 6.
remember you
We're
said-
doing step 5.
Hello, everybody. Are we live again? So, you know what? Bear with me, everybody. I gotta see. This thing is. It's because everyone out there is on. I'm gonna go switch something with their internet.
Did they all stay for real?
But you know what? We're live and you can hear everything. So let me put my headphone in and we'll just get going on it. It's working now. Because they have a guest wireless, then they have one for the house. And I'm hooked onto their guest, but I could go and I should. I just gotta go grab the password. Whatever, we're live. You guys all can hear me now. I know you can because I hear me in my headphone. Welcome back to the Attitude for Gratitude podcast. And it's all an internet thing, so bear with us. If we start chopping out, I apologize. I'll end up doing a recording and then putting it out, and you can watch it right on the same thing. It'll just be about a half hour behind schedule. And it won't be live and interactive. So I apologize about that, but it's going to come. We'll still have the same information, and we're going to be talking about some inventory stuff, step 4 stuff, like Rick and Jesse and Misty do down at 2218 on Wednesdays at 6:30 every Wednesday. They continuously do it for years now, right? Like 15, 20 years now you've been doing it? 30 years Rick's been doing the 4-step workshop down at 2218, the world's longest running Alano. I just love saying that type of stuff. Just like here at We'll Work for Recovery, 4026 Washington Avenue North. We are the world's largest RCO.
So what do you think? I'm just reading from, since I know how to do that, that makes me feel comfortable.
We'll read
And then I
a
brought,
couple things
I
to
brought extra worksheets for you.
bring it up to speed. And I'm not going to read the whole chapter.
Well, I figured you would. Just the how it works
Just
part.
touch on a couple things.
And I'm not, I'm too old to like make it purple. Unfortunately. You know what? Like ride there and deal with my sister. She's so bossy.
Runs in the family.
I'm not bossy. You think I'm bossy? Do you think I'm bossy?
The other internet.
one day. It was hot and cold at the same time.
Yeah, that's I yelled, yeah. Like I'm just on the way back. All right, so now we should be pretty tip top and back to hello everybody. End stream. Nope. There, we're good. We're back.
Woohoo.
Carolyn, thank you so much if you're listening. But we're good. I'm gonna keep you in my headphones, so I'm gonna deal with about a 5-second delay. I gotta turn this down. It's weird. In my ear, I have about a 5-second delay of what I'm saying. All right. If you listened earlier, sorry about the spiel you're about to get, but we've got Rick and Misty back in the house. Misty back in the house from the 4-Step Workshop down at 2218 every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. They continuously do it. They've been doing it for 25 plus years down at 2218 First Avenue South. That's where this show started. 2218 has some deep roots in the recovery community. And if you're just at Gopher State and you went into the archive room, you could have read a lot about how they were monumental in bringing recovery to Minnesota. I got to be careful about traditions and what have you. I can't do it like that. So get on down there and check it out. Tonight, we're going to be talking about some inventory stuff, some step 4, some step 5 stuff. We'll see where time allows us and how they're feeling about how long they want to go about with what we talk about. But bottom line is that we're down here at 4026 Washington Avenue North. We'll work for recovery. We have stuff going on all the time. We got the big, huge spring fling event coming up on the 7th down at Boom Island. That's going to be an amazing time. Also, we got the barbecue cleaning on Saturday, the 12th at noon. We'll feed everyone who shows up. Like, it's going to be some good food. So come on down here on the 12th. Other than that, like, we continuously are having events. We're continuously doing things to get people involved. We'll work for recovery as an RCO. We're the nation's largest RCO, recovery community organization, meaning that we have multiple different facets of resources down here. Peer recovery coaches or specialists, or we have peer recovery people down here. We've got housing stuff that you can get connected with down here. We got reentry program that's going to be starting back up. The computer lab starting back up. We've got a lot of things happening. We got a weight room here, ping pong and foosball tables, big meeting room. We got prayer rooms, breakout rooms, podcast studio. Come on, you can't beat this. Look at this. It's a hand-built studio. I don't know. I'm gassing myself up because I built it. But I don't know. I feel like I got to reintroduce you guys to the show and what's been going on. We had last week off, Gopher State weekend. So hopefully people got down to Gopher State and checked it out. We aren't going to be live on TikTok tonight. That'll be next week and every week thereafter. But we are on YouTube and Facebook. And I'll ask you, the listening audiences, share this show. Like it, subscribe. I think I'm saying the right words. Subscribe, like, and share. I think that's what I'm supposed to say, right? Like, do all those things. Or just sit back and enjoy. As always, this is an interactive show. Everything we talk about, if you have questions, if you want us to elaborate on something, if you're questioning something that's being said, write it. Write what you want. You can. I'm pretty good about staying on top of that type of stuff. You can feel free to reach out to me directly. My phone number will be going across the bottom of the screen. If you don't want your name out there for the questions that you want to ask, you can definitely just message me directly and we can keep it anonymous. And that's quite all right too. Rick and Misty are okay answering any questions. I know this from past. Rick's been on the show for almost 2+ years. He's been a continuous figure on this podcast. I don't know if it was Tad who thought of it or if it was Rick and Jesse who brought it up, but a while back he came on from the 4-Step Workshop and somehow it came about that, hey, would you want to come back next month? We talk about the next step. We had such great feedback because of the information Rick would share. And he's right out of literature type sharing. It's not too much of opinions going on here. Is that a good way of saying it? Yeah, not a lot of opinions going on here. Just a lot of the black and white part of the books. But also not a lot of co-signing going on here. Just a bunch of stuff. You guys have heard me talk about the transcendental meditation stuff. That's this guy. You guys have heard me talk a lot about how I met a guy who I've never met someone who could let it go. You know, all that one liner, let it go. That's this guy. I've never met no one who could do it like this. And I put him on a pedestal, which isn't fair to him either, but I get to do that. All right. Other than that, like, if you're out there struggling, if you're looking for some help, if, you know, life is showing up like it likes to, reach out. Come on down to We'll Work for Recovery. You already heard me talk about 2218. This place is a recovery community organization. Otherwise, get some professional help. Like, you're worth finding this stuff that we're talking about. It's out here for the taking. And like, give yourself a chance. Like, buckle up. It's worth it. It was worth it for me. I stand by it. I'll continue to stand by it. All right, I'm running out of things to blab about. Again, you're loved. You're worth this. If there is anything that you guys want me to elaborate on, just post it, or reach out to me directly. By the time they get going, I will have my number going across the bottom, which I lied. I got it going across the bottom right now. All right. Attitude for Gratitude every Friday night, 8 p.m. Also, I'd be remiss. Look at using big words. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. We have started a new show on Wednesdays with Jake and Nate. Jake and Ryan. Oh my gosh. Jake and Ryan, called Rule 62. Don't take yourself too seriously. It's Rule 62. It's after the Wednesday night meeting. The door is open. Anyone who wants to come in and be on the show, we have created a show for meeting goers. So come on down here, get on the show, or just tune in Wednesday nights on these same platforms you're watching this on. It's been a really good, it's been a really good turnout. Last week there was like, I don't know, like the first night, like 500 of you watched the show. It's just amazing. Good feedback. Jake was really excited about it. And Ryan, it's really a good thing. So get involved. Also, the Soap of Hope, Chucky, the man, the myth, the legend. He usually would come in here. I'm not sure if he's going to make it in tonight. Have he given you? Yeah, you guys have gotten some soap. I do have another bar for you over there. So you just grab one. But the Soap of Hope, the Armor of Yah. Chucky is the man. I know he's already put a message down here. So he might pop in. He might not. I don't know if he's in the building or not. But come down and get yourself some Soap of Hope. It's got a good message behind it. Wash, rinse, repeat. All right, let's get this thing going. Who, might I ask, is in the house, young lady? Who are you?
Misty.
Misty, welcome back to the show.
Thank
and
you.
sir?
Rick.
All right. So I got the two of you lined up on camera. And the idea is that we initially talked about, let's have you on the show. And I'm just going to give everyone a recap if there's a new listener, which we have a few tonight already, I can see. What it is that they talk, there's these programs we do. I'm going to try not breaking. I don't know. We do this thing of recovery that are based out of some certain type of literature that has 12 steps. And lo and behold, there's 12 months out of the year. And I have them on the show once a month. And we typically try to keep in lieu of the month we're in with that step that we talk about out of that literature. We did not have them on the show last month. Scheduling issue.
It was me. Yeah, we were scheduled and
it's my fault. No, whatever the reason was, we didn't get you guys on. So we did miss the most important. The reason that linked us up was step 4, because you run a 4-step workshop, which you're going to share about tonight. You know what? That's why they're here. They go over steps with us. It started out at step 4. We missed last month. Today we're going to play catch up. So why don't you two explain what you do down at 2218 and let's get into this step.
Well, there's nothing to explain. They'll just show you.
Prove it.
I want to read, actually, I'm going to have Misty read something that comes in the foreword to the first edition.
This is the foreword as it appeared in the first printing of the first edition in 1939. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book.
So that's why they wrote the book, to show us precisely how they have recovered. And that's all italicized, precisely how we have recovered. it says after that, the next sentence, it says, for them, we hope that these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary.
Oh, I don't have that.
So,
Can we still see our books fine?
Mhm.
All right.
yeah, that's fine. So AA is dated 1935. This was published in 39. So they had 4 years of experience before they put the book out.
That's those 100.
First 100 people.
That's 4 years of these 100 people they reference of what you just read.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they didn't even have 4 years, probably about 3. Bill was the longest in sobriety.
At that point,
Yeah. And he sobered up at the end of 34. So they probably wrote this in 38. Anyway, so we're going to look at precisely how they have recovered. We'll try and do this fairly quickly.
whatever.
But just a couple of things. It's not theory. None of this is written from their collective theories. It's all written from their collective experience.
Those first 100.
Yeah.
All right.
What they saw that worked. That they wrote a compilation of what worked, not what they think you should do. This is what we did that worked.
Doing what I do really good, where I say, I'm not to interrupt, but I'm going to interrupt. This, I think, is a big part that I know we had Terry on, and you've always stood pretty strong on the facts. Let's just say the facts. And you're saying right now, this is their experiences. It's not their opinions. And do you see where I'm going with this? Is about a lot of that difference about a lot of people giving their opinions versus what are facts. Or elaborate on what I'm trying to say. I know you know what I'm saying or getting at.
What their experiences were.
Like there's the big difference that we always.
Okay, I was watching years ago. I was watching a video of a guy who his name is Arthur Young.
Okay.
You might want to look him up on YouTube. Anyway, he was an inventor, been inventing things all of his life, and he was probably late 70s, early 80s when this program aired. And he's being interviewed by a guy, and they're talking about inventing things, and they're talking about spirituality. And he said that they had theories when they would invent something. Their theories were based in logic. If we do certain things by logic, it should work. In other words, if we do A, B, and C by logic, D should follow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were inventing a form of helicopter. He said they had theories of how it should fly. Then they built a model to see if it'd work. He said sometimes the model wouldn't obey their theories. It didn't work the way they thought. But they didn't say the experience was wrong and their theories were right. They adapted their theories to the experience. The experience is what's true, not what you logically think. So they adapted their logical theories to the experience. Any reasonable person would do that, but that's not what I was doing. When I got sober, I was trying to get the world to adapt to my theories, and it wasn't working. And then I got sober, and I thought, I just got to work it harder.
No.
So I poured more energy into trying to force something to work that wasn't. And of course, my life got worse real quick, too, because I was pouring a lot of energy into it. Never did it occur to me to not do that. Why? Because it was logical. It should work. It makes sense. But it wasn't. But it should. See, this is really a problem.
That we do it today, right?
Well, not as much as I did. I can tell you that. I stepped back pretty quick. But so logic will keep a guy like me hanging on to things that aren't working because I think they should. They're logical.
Right.
So I won't let them go. And conversely, then you get sober. This is not what I did, but I've seen it a lot, is they won't try things that don't make sense that will work. I just won't try it. Doesn't make sense. Hey, what do you mean you can't keep it if you don't give it away? It doesn't make any sense. But you know, if you share ideas, you strengthen them in yourself. You don't lose ideas by giving them away. you strengthen them.
I like that.
Now the question is, what are you strengthening and what are you giving away? Are you giving away hate, judgment, guilt, giving the guilt to other people? Guess what's happening? You're keeping it. You don't lose it by giving it. You keep it by giving it.
God, you just made it make so much more sense on another level for me. Serious. I've heard you share about this a few times, and just now sharing an item or giving an item away. How does that get me anything? Sharing an idea strengthens it.
Well, even if you consider that, and this gets a little airy-fairy, okay, but it's true. Okay, even if you consider that everything is a thought form, there are forms of thought. Everything you're looking at is a form of thought, okay? Well, when you give ideas away, you strengthen them. So even in terms of material things, it's true too.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make logical sense.
Logically, no, it doesn't.
No. If I give you something, I don't have it anymore. That's the idea that most people think. But ultimately, if everything's an idea, you're strengthening everything by giving it away.
I give you an idea. I still have the idea.
Yeah. But even a thing is an idea,
See, that's
a
where my
material
brain-
thing.
That's the logic side for my brain to say, no, this thing here,
Right.
you know,
You ever give a gift to somebody and you don't want anything? You just give it to them?
yeah.
Don't you feel better?
Now, in this life, yeah.
Well, I'm not talking about giving it to get something. I'm talking about just truly giving something. Don't you feel better?
Yeah.
Well, there it is.
Same difference.
Well, aren't you benefiting from
Yeah,
doing it?
no, I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing 100%.
It's when you put a hook on it
Okay.
that it's a problem. When you expect something back, when you put a demand, you want them to like you, you want them to appreciate you.
Or they return it, the gift.
Oh yeah, what if she gives it to her sister?
Who cares? I didn't give it to you.
Does it upset you?
It shouldn't.
But does it?
That's you're right. Kim B, I love you. And sorry about our buddy Bobby. So yeah, Bobby G.
Yeah.
We had a really big, you guys know, we had someone we lost in this past month. Big fixture down at 2218 is Bobby G passed, and we love you and miss you. And Kim, thanks for hopping on, and she give it away. That's what she wrote right when you were sharing about that. I'm glad I interrupted you at the beginning for you to elaborate more on that, because I don't know if you were following where I was going with this, but I know a lot today with sponsorship. We're getting a lot of opinions, or not. I've seen it happen quite a bit where a sponsor we're dealing with opinions versus these experiences.
People telling instead of sharing.
I was trying to get to that, but I'm glad.
See, that's not the program. That's not AA.
Come on.
Yeah, it's not AA.
Right.
Because we don't tell. We share.
We share.
Yeah. We don't tell anybody anything. If that's the big difference. A lot of people want to tell people what to do. That's not AA. We share what we did. That's the way the book's written. So that's what this first part of it is just illustrating, is that
Their experiences.
this is their experience.
And
It's
they
not
wrote
theory.
they wrote about their experiences.
So you can have lots of theories
Yep.
and they may not work. And you may not like it that they don't work, but they don't work.
Facts. Did it say 97 men and 3 women?
No, there
No.
were no women.
There was. Sorry, then I was incorrect.
No, it said
Someone asked me and I wrote 97.
It's actually
One.
86 from what I heard. I don't know if that's accurate, but they rounded it up to 100 because they like to exaggerate. And it
Oh,
sounds-
imagine that. Alcoholics.
Yeah.
So Ryan, I think that was you that asked that. I was incorrect. So I should have I shot my load before I got the answer. He just asked when they wrote the forward, how many women were there? I don't think it's going to keep anyone sober, but
None.
it
none.
said 100 men and women, but
That's
Yeah, but that's.
And I thought I read
was
somewhere
all-
with 97 men, 3 women. I don't know. But here we go.
I don't know.
Opinions.
That's
Yeah.
3 years later, so I'm not sure. I'm not positive about that, by the way.
And we're talking 90 years ago.
yeah.
And I don't even care.
Me neither.
That's
No,
the-
that's the thing. I'm going to go on a tangent. with some of the few things I've heard about some of the changes in some of the literature, I get this feeling of why are things trying to be fixed that aren't broken?
You
I
mean
don't know.
changing the book?
Yeah,
Oh,
the thing that's worked for 80, 90 years.
yeah, because
We
that's
don't-
what human beings do.
All right.
They want to make improvements.
On things that we've had this conversation 3 months ago. Someone trying to improve, let's just say, while they're sponsoring someone. I think I have a better way. I agree. You know what I'm saying. And it's almost like an inside joke here, but we had Terry W on the show not too long ago, and he really went not a tangent, but he's from the same school as you, and so we talked about you on that show. Matter of fact, your name came. He said that guy scares the shit out of me. Talking about you, but not in a bad way. Just no BS. Rick is no BS, and he is cut and dry, and it is what it is, and he's right out of the book. No opinions, no nothing.
Mhm.
And a lot of we've had shows and shared about that. A lot of people with their opinions, or we don't want to hurt someone's feelings, so we should change this word to that word in the book. Why? I don't know. Maybe you have the answer.
Well, it's just human beings. That's human nature. People want to improve on things. And there's a tremendous temptation to do this. Dr. Paul O., who wrote the Dr. Alcoholic Addict story, only they had to change that to acceptance is the answer in the 4th edition because they couldn't handle the addict in the title.
You two
General
are on
Service
camera,
Office
not
couldn't
me.
handle that one, you know. So anyway, they changed that, but Dr. Paul had his own 4th step. I've got a booklet somewhere at home of his. It's a pamphlet. So he made his own improvement. See, this is a temptation. Sorry to say this, Joe and Charlie did the same thing with their sheets that they put together. They didn't line up with the book. They weren't accurate to the book. So they thought that they would improve it. I love Joe and Charlie, but nevertheless, the temptation to try and make it better. Now, my friend Bob, I used to do these workshops with, I used to push him to tell this story because he was a musician and he was doing a movie or a score for the Guthrie Theater.
Yep.
He wrote the music on the play, and they had he was up in the control room with the producer, same thing on this one. And the guy was going out of town. They had the play on stage and music's going, the whole thing's going. And he says to Bob, I'm going out east to Connecticut for 6 weeks. I'll be back. Bob said, why do you have to come back? He said to take out the improvements that were made when I was gone. See, different actors start improving their role, upstaging. That's where the word comes from. Upstaging the next actor and that sort of thing. And pretty soon the play doesn't look anything like it was directed to do because there's this tendency to want to make your part more important.
Is that a bondage itself? Is it human nature? Or do we
Well, it's
know?
just human nature. But it doesn't really matter. I mean, that's just, so I used to have Bob tell it. Why? Because this is what people do. And we're trying to not do that. I'm trying to keep this to where it was originally written. And I've been painstaking about doing that. And not that I want to be rigid. I just want the message to stay to what the process is, because there's been a lot of improvements that were made since Bob and Bill have been gone. It's
Yep.
what people have done. So anyway,
Using the word improvement, see, you got to know Rick, or I know you now. If I didn't know you and I heard you for the first time say it, just what you said, a lot of people have made improvements. They're going to think, oh, something better.
no,
Yeah.
improvements in their view.
There you go. I know what you mean when you said improvements. I'm just thinking someone who just here, first day they hopped on, they're like, oh, so they have made improvements to that book. And I think just saying that,
Makes it sound better.
and it makes me think of how many other things have we heard that in life, period.
That's why they wrote the book in the first place, was to keep that from happening.
Hang on. You guys can't hear it, but I agree with you 100%. Yeah. Hands down, mic drop. All right. I've sidewinded us enough. All right, let's get back to where I
So
Interrupted.
we're gonna touch on a few things. We're gonna read just a couple of paragraphs here in the first, starting on page 58 in chapter 5. It's titled How It Works because this is how it works.
Imagine that.
Is that me? How it works?
Yeah.
Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest.
So this is what they saw happening in the early fellowship, that the people who would not or did not stay sober were people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program. They just won't do it. And who are they? Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. Now, there's a tendency to think of that, like I did originally, as honest with everybody else. So I'll set out to become rigorously, rigidly honest with everybody else. And I found I can be very honest with others and very dishonest with myself. That doesn't even sound possible, but it's true.
Is that another human nature thing? You think you see that with a lot of people? Is we're dishonest with self quite a bit. We want to believe our own.
Well, it's wishful thinking too. You know, you want it to be a certain way and it's not. Okay. Honest with themselves. Look, you can't lie to yourself. I mean, you can't set out to lie to yourself or you'd know you were lying. So what are we talking about then? It obviously isn't cash register honesty because we're talking about being honest with ourselves, not honest with everybody else. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't be honest with everybody else, but you can become rigid doing that too. And then you're like the guy who quits smoking and wants you to quit smoking, you know? And then there's another guy who quits drinking and wants you to quit drinking, you know? There's that guy. And that's really obnoxious. Well, I heard it's not, I heard somebody say this and I didn't understand it, but he said, what we're really talking about here is self-deception.
Well,
and I thought to myself, I don't have self-deception. Certainly I lie to other people, but I tell myself the truth. That's what I thought. That's what I believed. And I'm not alone in that. I think a lot of people probably believe that. There are people who are in AA for a long time who think that we're talking about honest with everybody else. But it's not what it says. So what are we talking? Self-deception. You say, well, I don't have self-deception. But I would ask, how do you know? How do you know you don't? Isn't self-deception the guy who's got it doesn't know it? How do you know you're not self-deceived? If you actually have self-deception, by definition, the word means you don't know you got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, alone in its own verbiage, you're deceiving yourself. You wouldn't know.
How can I learn to spot my self-deceptions? Well, that's what the inventory is for. This is what the process is about. It's learning how to spot your self-deceptions. Okay. I got to quit lying to myself. I can be very honest with others. Tell the truth all the time, you know, this sort of thing. Don't steal and think you're working a program. But are you really, if you're dishonest with yourself? Self-deception about what? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to look at in the inventory. The first part of the inventory is about looking at resentments. What's a resentment? Well, it's a story. You can't be angry without a story. You have a story in your mind of what the person did, what they did to you, why you're angry, how you were hurt by what they did. You've been telling it to people probably for years. Might be your parents or somebody else. Maybe something outrageous happened. And that really happened.
Yeah.
Well, but nevertheless, then telling it. So a resentment is a story. It's a story that what? Justifies my anger.
You put that into verbiage a long time ago on the show, and that it not changed my life, but it helped me personally to see a lot of things of where I was coming from with my feelings, because you co-signed it for me. You explained my feelings are valid by the story I'm telling myself.
Of course.
But the important part is the story I'm telling myself correct.
Well, I used to try and convince this one guy in particular named Scott. And he was at the club early on, and he was a maniac, and he was pissed at a judge, and he just was rageful. And some of it may have been very valid in the way they were handling him, and then he got in the judge's face in the courtroom and spent 6 months in jail over contempt of court, So you sit in jail and then you just seethe and you hate deeply. Yep. Well, he had that going on when I met him. And he was, every time I had a big shift with the inventory, and I wanted to help him. So I was trying to tell him and convince him somehow that his story wasn't true. And all I was doing was irritating him. He'd literally get pissed off and rage and run away from me. I mean, literally, I saw he did it many times. We stayed friends. I knew him for years. He died just not too long ago, but and not that old either. Had a weird cancer, blood cancer or something. And anyway, but so I was trying to convince him that he shouldn't be angry. Try to logically tell him that. See, that's not the process of the inventory. That's what sponsorship becomes for a lot of people, where the sponsor tries to convince him somehow,
right,
and psychologically figure something out so he won't be angry, because it's well-meaning, but you can't do it. You know why? Because you're beyond human aid. And the sponsor doesn't know all the particulars, nor the events that led up to it, nor the circumstances of what the other side of the resentment, what their position is. He doesn't have any of that information. So to think as a sponsor that you can do that is just absolute arrogance. Now, you might not like that statement, but it's true, because I think that I'm playing God again. I know how to fix this thing. It's a first step issue again. The sponsor can't admit the first step, that he can't solve the problem. Yeah. That's the sponsor's fault.
It's a great full circle there.
Yeah,
it really is.
So this process is not going to be psychological. It's going to be spiritual. And I'll show you that before we get done tonight. But what I want to make a point of is that, look, you ever been wrong when you were sure you were right?
Yeah.
It got some new information.
Yep.
Maybe you had some case built against somebody that you thought stole something from you, and you find out that the guy maybe wasn't even in town or something, something weird deal,
Yep.
And you find out you're wrong. I'm wrong. I would have bet I was right, but I'm wrong. Everything pointed to be being right, but I'm wrong. Well, if you've ever had an experience like that, where you've been wrong before when you were sure you were right, then how many things could I be wrong about right now, and I just haven't found out yet?
Opens the door.
It hasn't been revealed to me. Now, I'm not taking a stance that a lot of guys, they get this rigid talking. They say, well, all you got to do is change everything. Come into AA and scare the hell out of the newcomer. All you got to do is change everything, Or it's sad, because it really is rather abusive, really. But my point of all this is that maybe you can just open the door to a possibility of being wrong about some things, these stories, if you were wrong before at some time when you were sure you were right. So it must be a possibility I could be wrong. Now you say, well, I'd say, well, how about we write it down? We'll take a look at it. I would never tell you your anger is not justified. my statement to somebody like that is your story accurate? Not is it true, because there may be elements of truth in the story.
Right.
Is it accurate? That's a different way of looking at it, see? And he'll say, yeah, it's accurate, and I'll tell you all about it. And I would say, good. That's the first 3 columns on page
Write it
65.
down.
Yep.
That's the first 3 columns.
Right.
On page 65. That's the story of why my anger is justified. That's not the solution. That's just we're trying to get it down on paper what we think. Now, if you want to say anything, jump in
Yeah.
anytime.
Oh, no, I'm good right now.
Yeah.
So
What ended up happening to your friend in court? Did he end up what ended up happening to your friend in court?
he stayed resentful for probably about maybe 30 years. One day I was on the phone with him, had this conversation with him many times, only I was doing it a little different, not trying to convince him he was wrong or anything. Oh, we were talking about inventory, and he knew how to write it, and he'd written some, I don't know how much he did, along the way. But I was texting him back and forth on the phone over a period of about 3 days. And one day he sends me a text and he says, what do you do when you find out that you're totally responsible? I almost fell out of my chair. I'd been trying to get him to have some sort of an experience like that for 30 years. And all of a sudden, something shifted inside of him. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly,
Just slowly.
You just have no idea. But I couldn't induce that. Wasn't
Right.
trying to make him wrong or anything else. I was just talking to him about things on text. And then I get that, and that shifted. Something shifted inside of him. Now, what shifted or how, I can't say. He was writing stuff out, and somehow he got some help in his mind spiritually. Not from me. I was just interacting with him
Right.
a little bit. It wasn't anything I hadn't said to him long before that. But he had to see it through an experience, not through concepts of somebody
Right.
telling him it. Because I don't know how it all played, but it was fascinating.
It only
when it
took
happened.
30 years.
That's right.
Better late than never.
Yeah. So anyway, got to be honest with ourselves.
If we're constitutionally capable.
Well,
Someone asked, please define constitutionally. I don't know if they're trying to.
The makeup of the country, the Constitution is what formulates the ideas that our country is based in. So it's a basic idea of the country and what it stands for, what its principles are. It's the same thing with this. Is my basic makeup, Constitution, dishonest? Yeah, maybe. So what?
Okay.
It just says your chances are less than average. Doesn't mean that you don't have a chance.
Right.
So this idea of honesty is a huge point. Forget about being honest with everybody else. That'll come.
Right.
That'll come in time. You're not going to be perfect. Look, if you had to get perfect before you came to AA,
That'd be screwed.
nobody'd get here.
No.
Okay. Come here with all your shitty motives for why treatment centers used to say that stuff when I went through treatment. They'd say things like, well, you got to do this for yourself. That's such nonsense. I don't care why a guy does it. Why am I getting involved in what his motives are? If he's willing to do it, who gives a damn?
Right.
If he's doing it to get his kids back,
Yep.
who cares? It doesn't matter.
You helped me to realize that a while back as well.
Forget
Saying
about the
something like that.
motives, just do it. It's like this guy said, died drunk, by the way, this guy. He said, he had clever sayings. He said, it's Nike, not Nietzsche. Nietzsche's a philosopher, obviously.
Right.
It's not Nike. It's not Nietzsche.
It's
It's Nike. Just do it. Yeah. So it's Nike, not Nietzsche. Just do it.
do it.
Just do it. Who cares why you do it?
As long as you're here, whatever gets you here.
He had another one, you talk about putting somebody on a pedestal. He said this too, and I thought it was clever as hell too. He died drunk, not long after he gave
Said all
me
this clever shit.
this shit. Yeah. He said, the only reason you put anybody up on a pedestal is to slide a longer shaft under them.
Say again.
What happens when you put somebody on a pedestal, it's a setup to kill them.
Yeah.
It's to slide a longer shaft under him. It's a setup to shaft his ass, you know?
It's good.
It's unfair.
Yeah.
They can't live up
it's
to
not
it.
fair to put someone on a pedestal.
Oh, it's terrible because they can't live up to it. And then you'll hate them when they don't live up to it.
You're
Mhm.
setting
You'll
yourself
judge them
up-
mercilessly, you know?
Set yourself up for resentment.
Yeah.
Someone told me that about making my mother my higher power. That is so unfair to her.
Well, I heard a long time ago, and I'm not a religious guy at all. I don't like organized religion. It's just not my thing. And I tried. I just couldn't do it. But I heard a statement attributed to Jesus: "Call no man on earth your father. Your father's in heaven."
Mm.
That's the same idea. Don't make the priest a god. Don't make, this stuff
Right.
is problematic, They got clay feet, as they say in the Bible too. Clay
Clay
feet,
feet.
Yeah, they're no different than you and I. They put their pants on one leg at a
One leg at a
time.
time.
Some of these guys have been putting their pants on 2 legs at a time, I think. Not sure what they were doing. But that's us doing that. It's just
Right.
like with AA speakers. Clancy was a guy who was very popular and stuff.
Yep.
And they turned him into a monster. It wasn't Clancy that was the
No.
problem. It was the fellowship. Put him up there like he was make him out to be a big shot. And maybe he started to buy his own,
Right.
buy a ticket to his own show. I don't know if he did or not, but I knew him a little bit because I was
Yeah.
on a conference with him one time. And it's unfair. It's the fellowship that does that stuff. It's unfair to the person.
Right.
And some of these guys get drunk over that stuff. I've known some who were national speakers.
No, they're crap. They're crap. It's not
Oh.
you. It's my
And I-
stance. No, you didn't do nothing wrong.
So anyway, that's getting off to another deal. But
That's another podcast.
Yeah.
yeah. But I want to jump ahead from there because it's just we can't read all this, and I just want to get to this process a bit here. On page, let's look at page 6. Let's just go right to page 62 at the top of the page.
Well, that's a
You
scary
want
word.
to read that because
The selfishness
Yeah.
part? Okay. Selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles.
not alcohol, not drugs,
Mm.
selfishness.
Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate.
Okay, is that what's been going on in my life? I've been driven by 100 forms of fear. What am I afraid of? I'm afraid I won't get what I want. I'm selfish.
Mhm.
I'm afraid I'll lose what I've got. I'm selfish. I'm driven by 100 forms of that fear. Many forms. Self-delusion. I lie to myself. I distort things. Self-seeking. I'm only concerned about Rick. And self-pity. I feel sorry for myself
That fear.
because I'm not getting what I want. What happens? I step on the toes of my fellows and they retaliate. That's what they're saying the problem is. Could that be? I thought they were attacking me. You mean they're not attacking me? You mean I'm stepping on their toes and they're retaliating? There's a big transformation of mind right there from thinking that they're attacking me to realizing they're reacting to
Mhm.
me.
It's a big difference.
Huge. It's a transformation of your mind right there.
Yeah, I
So,
would push
go
my
ahead.
dad's buttons when I was younger, and him and I didn't have a good relationship growing up. And I always thought that he only picked on me and he was very aggressive and stuff.
And he
And-
probably was.
He was, but it was me pushing his buttons
Poking the
and
bear, poking the
yeah,
bear.
poking the bear.
Lighting
and
the
then he'd
fuse,
slap-
and then when it would explode. Wait, whoa.
Yeah, and then my mom, I would take my side, and it caused a rift between them two. So
Did you see this once you got into recovery, or
I saw it him and I resolved our issues when I got older. So I never really had any resentment, but I did through my actually sex inventory because I see that I do it with, I was doing that with men. I would poke.
Well, of course. Why wouldn't you?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And then they would react and it was me.
You can't change something you don't know you're doing. In fact, what I'm aware of, I got a chance of controlling. What I'm not aware of is controlling me.
Nietzsche.
Well, I mean, do you
No,
want
that
it's
is-
controlling you whether you look at it or don't look at it. So to not look just absolutely
Yeah.
ensures that it's going to continue. You know, it's not going to change. So selfishness. So what is the word selfish? Because that's a buzzword for people, and it is. And it was for me to some degree. I knew that when people used the term selfish in connection with me, it was not a compliment. Clearly, it wasn't a compliment. It was they were you're bad if you're selfish. That's the way I looked at it. There's something wrong with you. You know, you'd say, well, what's wrong with you? How many times have you had somebody say, what's wrong with you? You know what the answer to that is? The list is endless. That'll shut them up in a hurry. The list is endless. A little humor will help, you know.
Rick,
Straight.
you're still the master. Our good friend Kim B.
Cool.
Kim Bear. Kim B.
But you know, that's the thing, you know. That's the way it is. So selfish, what's the word mean? I thought I knew what it meant till I looked it up. In the dictionary, now Webster's Collegiate Dictionary to be exact, just so you know, because there are different definitions, not different, but little different wording. But that particular dictionary said concerned excessively or exclusively with oneself. Seeking or concentrating on one's own advantage, pleasure, or well-being without concern for others. So selfish basically means that I'm doing for myself without concern for others. But how could I have concern for others if I'm, first sentence, concerned excessively or exclusively with myself? You're using and you're not paying the
don't care,
bills. Okay. And you've got children and you're not buying them enough clothes. They got crappy clothes and you're getting food and stuff. You're having to move and all kinds of things are happening. Does that mean you don't love your kids? No, it means you're selfish. You're so wrapped up in your addiction that you can't consider others. It's not that you don't care about them. You can't even consider it when you got a monkey on your back, you know?
Right.
So it's really a problem. And just because you get that monkey off your back, you get sober, doesn't mean the circus left town.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
You still got to deal with the circus. And there's the big problem, man. And that's what we're going to look at
Here
here.
we start doing some inventory.
So I saw that people were reacting to me when I wrote inventory. Now, I didn't know that. So you could make these statements like Bill does here, but he's just giving you a few ideas, you know, to lead you in. These are actually third step ideas that lead up through the third step
You
prayer.
said you saw that people were reacting to you when you started doing inventory. You mean the people that you were doing inventory about?
That I was resentful at.
Okay.
Yeah. I realized that
It was making
like with the mother of my kids, if she would have been doing to me for a month what I was doing to her for 11 years, I'd have left her.
right.
Not something I'm proud of, just a fact.
Right.
And I mean that factually, because I know I went out with a gal who was a lunatic that I really liked right before Pam. And she was just a nightmare when she'd drink. And I left. I didn't get to put up with this crap. But she was mean and aggressive. I wasn't. But I wouldn't have put up with it. There's no way. So you get a little dose of reality. You know, alcoholics like to dish it out. They can dish it out real good. When it comes time to take it, believe me, they're whining like a little girl, you know. And, oh my God, she left. You know, you go into the rooms and you say, Mr. Tough Guy, yeah, I didn't really care about her anyway. And then you go back to your room and you're, oh, Jesus Christ, she left her. Crying like a little baby, you know.
I know
put
all
on the
about
game
that.
face, and all the BS,
I know
but
all about that.
You
yeah,
got tear stains in your
Yeah,
eye
right.
there.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So, but that's what selfish means. So selfish is not good or bad. It's a fact.
It's a fact.
Look at it
is.
factually. I'm doing for myself. I wasn't considering other people. If you can look at it factually, you can get out of the judgment about it, because we're going to ask you to look for the selfishness behind the story that justifies your anger. This is where this is going ultimately. So
Do you want me to continue?
on page 65, let's look at this.
And no, we are kind of going through because we're going through quicker than normal because of the timeline. But the 4-step workshop is about a 7 week, 7 different Wednesdays in a row. But you can show up anytime,
Mhm.
right?
Right, it doesn't matter.
Right. Okay. All right. Just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, and sometimes it goes longer than 7. It's hard to say. It just depends on how much interaction,
Yeah,
because we're not talking at the group. We want the group to interact.
Right.
So you never know what's going to happen.
And I've been there, and some people share about their own experiences with trying to do their experience with the 4-step with previous sponsor thing. And it is an interactive 4-step workshop, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys provide papers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
got it.
Tissue paper.
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
So
There you
they-
go.
Give one
In
of
case you
these.
start crying.
Yep. We have plenty of
Copy of
Kleenex.
chapter 5.
All right.
Because this
page-
isn't pleasant to look at. It really
No.
isn't. This stuff is ugly.
I think this kept a lot. Well, we just read about it. Driven by 100 forms of fear. This part keeps what I've seen. It keeps a lot of people from getting to this point.
So at the top of page 64, it basically in that top paragraph just says, liquor is a symptom. We have to get down to causes and conditions of why I don't like reality. Why do I want to medicate my mind? I'm in pain. I don't like how I feel. Ultimately, that's where this ends up when you got a lot of resentment going on. So it says, maybe we started, therefore we started upon a personal inventory.
Where are you at? Oh, therefore, so it's 64, second paragraph.
Yep.
Therefore, we started upon a personal inventory. This was step 4. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. Taking a commercial inventory is a fact-finding and a fact-facing process. It is an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade. One object is to disclose damaged or unsellable goods to get rid of them promptly and without regret. If the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values.
Now, I'll tell you, Bill did something here that is so significant, yet he got criticized for this.
Oh, so
Well, they were writing this in New York, and New York was filled with atheists and agnostics. Not that there weren't some religious folks there too, but generally speaking, the first 100 people who put this thing together. Then they were shipping it off to Akron area,
The Bible Belt.
the Bible Belt. Akron and Cleveland are where all the religious folks were. And they wanted everything to be about morality. Everything. This was a big deal. Even in the wording of step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Moral is a tough word. Now, Bill did something here that's, I think, brilliant, just absolutely brilliant. But a lot of people didn't like this. It says, taking a commercial inventory, a bit like a business, right, is a fact-finding and a fact-facing process. It is an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade. Now, Joe and Charlie very aptly pointed this out, that the words searching could be fact-finding, and fearless could be fact-facing, and moral could be truthful. That is not what moral means if you look it up in the dictionary. It's ethical. It's right, wrong, good, bad. Our religion is that way. Sin and atonement. This whole thing, our whole experience in this culture that we're living in is that way. Okay? Is got that duality on it, on the language. But Bill's doing something different. So he put truth instead of moral. What do you think these people did when they heard that? They wanted it all to be about moral failings, all this. Oh, yeah. There was a real fight on this issue. Bill did not relent, thank God. Think about what he's doing. You come into this room to inventory it, you're going to count tables and chairs. You don't judge them, you count them. If it's a broken chair, it's not a bad chair. It's a broken chair. Get rid of it promptly and without regret. But it's not a good or a bad. It's not a moral judgment on it. It's factual. He says that one object is to disclose damaged or unsaleable goods. It's not saleable. Can't sell it. Get rid of it promptly and without regret. Same thing with ideas in your mind. Get rid of them, old ideas. He says if the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values. What has value? Does it work? Is it a helpful thing? Okay. This is a big deal because now we're going to look at it factually. Fact-finding, fact-facing, truthful inventory. Now look at the next sentence if you don't believe me.
We did exactly the same thing with our lives. We took stock honestly.
Doesn't say morally, does it? Say judgmentally.
First, we searched out the flaws in our makeup, which caused our failure. Being convinced that self, manifested in various ways, was what had defeated us, we considered its common manifestation. Resentment is the number one offender.
Now, misquoted constantly around AA. You'll hear people do this all the time in AA rooms, maybe less. I don't know now. I don't know. But I got to tell you, for years, I heard them say, yep, resentment's a problem. You'll hear somebody say in the meeting, yep, resentment's the issue. It's the number one offender. Resentment's the number one offender. Because it says that right there. Resentment is the number one offender. But look at what it's saying before that. This is the first 100 people now, or 86 or whatever it was, 89, whatever it was. It was less than 100, I heard. They're saying, we were convinced. Being convinced that self. What does that mean? Self. Rick's will. I want things my way. Rick. Small self. It's not capital self, not your spiritual nature. It's your human nature. So being convinced that self manifested in various ways. What does manifest mean? Came about. So being convinced that self manifested in various ways was what had defeated us. Self manifested, came about in various ways, was what defeated me. So now I'm going to consider its common manifestations. Now he says resentment is the number one offender. Doesn't mean it's the only one. It just says it's the big one. This is the big one. The number one offender. Resentment isn't the problem. It's the outgrowth of self, living selfishly. And that's what they show in the actor right after the ABCs, that story of the actor who wants to arrange the lights and the ballet and the scenery. It's a perfect description of how the mind becomes resentful.
My way, my way, my way.
But he ends up pissed, see?
Yeah.
The outcome of living that way ends up being resentment. That's why the first thing we're going to look at is the resentments. So that's a big, big deal right there. Misquoted, people take it out of context. Jesse likes to say that the smoke alarm goes off. It's not the smoke alarm that's the problem.
It's the
It's
fire.
what set it off.
It's the fire that's the problem. What are you going to do? Beat the smoke alarm until it shuts up?
You still got the reason why it went off.
You're still, your ass is still on fire. You know, so it's incredible, but it is misquoted because they don't understand that it's self, not resentment that's destroying. Although the resentment does destroy you, but that's not the start of it. It's Rick trying to get what he wants, living out of self, selfishly. I want what I want.
And usually I want it now.
Well, why would you want it tomorrow? That never gets here.
Mhm.
Bingo.
There's a bar in Wisconsin that had a sign outside that
Free
said
beer tomorrow.
free
Yeah.
beer tomorrow.
I loved it. I honestly, first time I saw it, I was like, we're
I'm
coming
gonna come
here
back tomorrow.
Did you hear about that place? They had free beer tomorrow.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people do that.
Oh, they made fun of me and said I was a blood.
I love it.
All right.
So resentment is the number one offender. So what?
It destroys more alcoholics than anything else.
Huh.
From it stem all forms of spiritual disease. For we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically.
What a great sentence. I
Mhm.
heard that loud and clear when I was new.
Is
When
it
the-
almost like a promise? Listen, this, you'll get this.
Malady means illness. I had to look it up. When the spiritual illness is overcome, what's the spiritual illness? Holding resentments. When you let the resentments go, you'll straighten out mentally and physically. You're not going to straighten out mentally and physically first. That's what the doctors are trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a pill to straighten you out mentally and physically. Doesn't work that way.
He's not saying don't go to the doctor and don't listen to the doctors, though. If you
Just
just
saying they're treating symptoms.
there you go. And remember, it's called practicing medicine because we are guinea pigs and they're practicing. All right, my tangent's over.
We just threw him out. That's it. He's
We're
been
done.
X'd out.
All right.
I'm watching it, so you got one person.
One strike against you here.
Oh
We're
no!
gonna-
On this
I'm just
feed
kidding.
here, this is when I get booted out, but that's not. It won't happen tonight. I'll explain after why we got booted. And here we're at like 70.
So what do we do? It says we write them down. It says
We
in dealing with resentments.
we listed people, institutions.
No, in dealing with resentments, we set them on paper.
Oh, middle of that, yeah,
Okay.
middle of that bottom paragraph.
Wait, I don't even know where we're at.
You said
Right
when
above
the
where you were
spiritual
reading.
malady is overcome,
Oh,
we straighten out
dealing
that-
with
yeah.
resentments, we set them on paper.
You write them down. You don't do it in your head.
We listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry.
That's column 1 on page 65.
We asked ourselves why we were angry.
That's the cause, the second column.
In most cases, it was that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened. So we were sore. We were burned up.
That's the second column.
That's
Something feels threatened. Like I'm going to lose something I got or not get something I want.
On our grudge list, we said opposite each name our injuries.
This is the third column now. How was I affected by what they did?
Was it our self-esteem, our security, our ambitions, our personal or sex relations, which had been interfered with? Did you want to explain what security means? Money.
Yeah. Self-esteem is how you view yourself, how others view you.
Ambitions is goals.
Ambitions are goals, things you wanted. Maybe somebody interfered in you getting a promotion, or you lost a relationship to someone that you felt sabotaged you. Yeah, things like that. Personal or sex relations. I tell Jim something about Fred, and he leaks it to him, and I'm pissed because I told him in confidence,
Yep.
and now he wrecked my relationship with the other guy. Yeah. Personal or sex relations. Yeah. So we'll just read this first one, and then we're going to want to move on.
We were usually as definite as this example.
So don't write a book, just get
The bullet points.
bullet points down.
I'm resentful at Mr. Brown. The cause, his attention to my wife, affects my sex relations, self-esteem. Fear is bracketed.
Fear is bracketed because he's afraid of losing his wife, and he's lashing out with anger out of fear. Fear is driving the anger.
I'm resentful at Mr. Brown. The cause, told my wife of my mistress, affects my sex relations, self-esteem. Fear is bracketed.
Here again, afraid of being exposed for what he's doing. And it's none of Mr. Brown's business in the first place anyway, which is true, which is true.
Excuse me. I'm resentful at Mr. Brown. the cause. Brown may get my job at the office. Affects my security, self-esteem. Fear is bracketed.
No, he's afraid of losing his job. See, fear is driving the anger. You can't be angry without being fearful. You can be fearful without being angry, and there is a separate inventory for that. Okay? But we're not going to get to all that tonight. We're just going to try and get through this to the fourth column.
And like I said last time when you brought this up and asked me about it, sure, we are in May. Next month we could even visit for a little bit of the fourth, hit 5, get into 6. Nothing's set in stone. We do it however we want.
Yeah.
It's your show. Serious. I mean, it's whatever we want to do.
Mhm.
There's no rules. We can go until 2 a.m, or we can wrap. No, whatever
Yeah.
you guys want. I think I made that pretty.
Well, she's going to have to go at some
yeah,
point
you got
here. And,
puppies.
but what's worse than that? But anyway,
A family obligation.
Oh,
yeah,
fun.
tomorrow. But
Early.
anyway, so that's the story. Isn't that those 3 columns are what? That's the story of why he's justified in hating Mr. Brown. That's all it is.
This is the story that, for now, justifies my feelings.
Don't try and edit it. Don't try and figure it out while you're writing this. That's not the purpose of these
And
first
that's
3
very
columns.
important because I've been in the room at the 4-step workshop, and a lot of us have brought up, we start going further with it at this
Yeah,
point.
don't do
And
it.
you're pretty good about letting us know. Nope, just write this down. Not much detail, just bullet points.
This is just to get down what you're angry at, who you're angry at, what they did to you, and how you were injured by what they did. You've been telling the story to others.
Yeah,
So you already have it in your mind.
right.
We're trying to put it on a piece of paper. And it doesn't matter if it looks stupid to you when you write it or that you shouldn't be angry or anything.
Right.
You are. Doesn't matter if you think you shouldn't be.
And you're not trying to convince anyone. This is you for yourself, your own. Like Rick said, you already know you're upset.
You're not going to rationalize your way out of this. If you could do that, you would have done it a long time
I
ago.
think I was bummed out when you
Yeah.
first mentioned that to me. I'm like, shit, I'm not gonna, am I?
No.
All right.
So, Bill just goes on, and we don't have time to read all this, but it's basically just showing you on page 66 just how destructive these resentments are. They're destroying me.
Yeah.
Okay, they
They're
knew
keeping
that.
me drunk.
That's right. People drink over this stuff.
Yep.
So at the bottom of page 66, where it says, we turn back to the list.
We turn back to the list, for it held the key to the future.
So you've written a number of people down the first 3 columns.
So here's you got the
Yeah.
inventory.
You're not writing, look,
You can hold that up right there. Yep, we see it.
okay, you see that?
Yep.
Okay. That's how simple you write it. The columns, you can look this up on our website, aabuythebook.org.
I'll put that in the link. I'll put that in the comment section.
Just aabuythebook.org. There's a whole workshop online. But we took the text that pertained to each column and put it right above it. And we listed under the first column, here's my improvement. List one person, institution, or principle on each sheet. Don't list 4 things, 4 people on one sheet. You take one story at a time. You'd need 4 sheets to do what's on page 65.
All right.
That's all that means.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the way that looks.
We were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle.
Okay. They're not telling us what that angle is. They're just saying we're open to seeing it from a different angle.
Willing.
Yeah, I'm willing. I know people say, oh, I see. We're looking at what they did. Now we're going to look at our part. That's not what it is. I know it's all over the fellowship that way. It's not what
Oh, yeah.
it's
Was until I heard someone else, bring that up.
it's not what we're
About a part, or go ahead.
we're not going to look at our part. I'll show you by
Yep,
the time
yep,
we
yep,
leave
I know.
tonight here. This is pretty simple stuff. So we're just prepared to look at it from a different angle. We don't know what that is. Don't make assumptions. Just be open to the possibility of seeing something else, maybe get revealed. We're shooting for something to be revealed.
Right.
Okay, let's skip down to the next paragraph.
This was our course. We realized that the people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick.
That sounds like a bunch of bullshit, boy. If you're ever molested or raped or beaten, I mean, my God, I almost left AA on that sentence. And I didn't have those things, I thought AA is just another bunch of bullshit. And just like everything else I heard in society, we're going to justify some other guy's shitty behavior. Oh, perhaps he's spiritually sick. Oh, I feel much better now. Oh, this did not fly with me. I'll tell you how I could make some sense out of that, because that didn't happen overnight. But I'll tell you what it is, in my mind anyway, is that anybody who didn't act like that to someone else was clearly not in their loving mind. They were spiritually sick. They weren't living. They were living out of their desires, their compulsions, their power, for sex, for whatever the hell it was, But they certainly aren't in their loving and spiritual nature. They're living in their addicted nature,
Right.
whatever that looks like. Okay. Now I can understand that. They're
Right.
spiritually sick.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the top of 67.
Though we did not like their symptoms and the way these disturbed us, they, like ourselves, were sick too.
Oh boy. I heard that years in. I'd been doing these workshops for years and I missed it. And I thought, why the hell is he putting me? They like ourselves. This is really interesting that he did that. Though we did not like their symptoms. I don't like the symptoms of their spiritual sickness, what they did.
Right.
And the way it disturbed me, right? But they, like me, were sick too. Now he's putting me in the same category with the guy I can't stand. Now I'm looking at him as he's sick. Okay. And it dawned on me one day, do I want to break for all the stupid things I've done out of my addictions? Did I want people to give me another chance? Did I want Pam, the mother of my kids, to come back in spite of the way I treated her for 11 years? Yeah, I did. She wouldn't, but I wanted her to. There are guys in Stillwater prison who've murdered people who wish they could take those few seconds back, and they want to break for what they did. Okay. I've met them. I've sat in meetings with them. I know. Well, if I want a break for all the insane things that I may have done out of my addictions when I couldn't control myself in a drunken stupor or a blackout or a fit of rage or whatever it is that you've done, maybe slept with your best friend's wife or husband or who knows what you've done. You want a break for all that stuff? Yeah. Guess what? Then you're going to have to give it to other people.
And it's not what helped with me, because I just reading with a lot of feedback is what did help with me, and what Rick is sharing about right now is he's giving different scenarios of the life that was being lived. And what we're saying here is, Tim, about myself, I was sick. I did a lot of negative things that got a lot of consequences, a lot of things I'm not proud of or happy of. Another person who harmed me, they did a lot of things, and maybe they were worse. Maybe they killed my brother. Maybe they murdered my animal. The level of whatever it was, these are details. They were sick like I was sick. The level of what we're doing is different. So it's and Rick, I think, made a really good point about that too. Though we did not like their symptoms, these are just symptoms. And the way that they disturbed us, they, like ourselves, were sick too. Once I was able to start seeing that side of it, because you brought up the thing, and I've heard women bring the rape.
Right.
We get
Right.
a lot of women in these rooms, and that's how do I forgive the guy who raped me? And not forgive. Come on.
You can't. And I can't tell you how to do that either.
Right.
But maybe God can.
There we go.
Okay.
Jump it.
I don't like the symptoms, but if I want to break for the stupid things I did, how am I not going to hammer on myself if I'm hammering on you? Do you really think you can get out from under the weight of your own judgmental mind? Here, the Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. You have to give it to get it, because your judgment of them is the same as your judgment of yourself. The form might be different of what you did, but the content's the same.
Yeah.
It's judgment. And you can't control it. It's going to go out and back. It's on both of us at that
We
point.
touched on a lot. I gotta be able to love Tim for me to love you. We gotta be able to forgive me in order to forgive you. There's a lot of it.
You can't, all this whole thing's about self-forgiveness. That's what he said here. Though we did not like their symptoms and the way these disturbed us, they, like ourselves, were sick too. You're forgiving yourself by seeing them differently. So how do you see them differently? Next sentence.
There we go.
We ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend.
Look, I can't get out of it on my own. I keep rehearsing the first 3 columns over and over and over that I wrote. I keep thinking about the grievance, the resentment. The more I think about it, the worse I feel. Okay. So who's paying the price for this?
Self.
You are.
Yep.
The person who's doing
If
that.
I'm saying you're bad subconsciously, I'm saying I'm bad.
Well, it's just, you might not like this idea, but this is why this is spiritual and not
Good stuff, John.
psychological. We ask God to help us, not the sponsor, not another human being, not the therapist. This is why therapy has so much trouble with this stuff, because they don't see it from a different angle.
No, I
Necessarily.
agree with you. Yeah.
And if it does happen, lovely. I
Yeah.
hope it does.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, people have trouble getting out of it. Why? Because they're trying to forgive the truth. I'm saying that one event is why my life is a mess, not because I made stupid choices and decisions out of selfishness. No, it's that one event why my life is a mess.
Right.
No, it
And
wasn't
that's
for me.
BS. No, not for me. No.
It was because of the decisions and choices out of it. Didn't mean that event didn't happen. It just means that's not why my life is a mess.
Without going through what I love how that's why I'm always on you about having you come on and share about a lot of your stories, side stories about your experiences with this stuff. But the concept, and people listening and sure, we're kind of blazing through it, but what we just went over in the last 15 minutes, I think is monumental on getting past symptoms, an event, something, because it's part of so-and-so murdered this. How do I forgive that?
You can't forgive
No,
it because you're trying to forgive the truth.
Yep.
You can't forgive.
I gotta forgive self.
Doesn't mean something didn't happen.
No, that happened. It's
Look,
self.
you're not going to psychologically figure this out.
Come on.
What we're shooting for is a revelation from a power greater than ourselves by opening our mind in this way. You've written the first 3 columns of a story. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm open to seeing it from a different angle. Now I'm asking God to help me see it from a different angle. That's all we've just read. That's all it says. Then we get down to this 4th column. Now I'm skipping over some stuff,
Yeah.
but
And we go into much more detail it's just more depth in the workshop.
oh yeah,
And we have much more time to go over section by section and
Line by line.
yeah. Well,
Mhm.
we're talking minimum of 8 hours or 7 hours versus us cramming this in 90 minutes, So, and you got these two right here, and Jesse,
Mhm.
he's part of it too, right?
Yeah.
That'll be there to answer questions and walk you right through whatever you may have questions.
Well,
on.
I don't have any answers. All I can do is show you the
love
mechanics
Rick.
for God to help you.
I love Rick. All right.
I can't fix it. If I could
No.
fix it, I'd be very wealthy. I'd hang a sign out and I'd be making a lot of money. All I can do is show you the mechanics for God to help you.
Yeah.
That's the only honest thing that I can do because I don't have anything else. So we ask God to help us, right? Show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend.
And did you want me to go to
Yeah.
column
keep
4?
going.
Okay.
When a person offended,
When a person offended, we said to ourselves, this is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? God save me from being angry. Thy will be done.
those are prayers. This is an attitude change. Help me to see him differently. The way I'm seeing him, I'm feeling the pain. I'm the one feeling the pain of the resentment. And he says it again. He says, go ahead, read that.
We avoid retaliation or argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. If we do, we destroy our chance of being helpful. We cannot be helpful to all people, but at least God would show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one.
Here he said it again. God will show me, not the sponsor, you do this in the privacy of your own mind and see what gets revealed when you write this fourth column. And here it comes. Here's the fourth column now.
Referring to our list again, putting out of our minds the wrongs others had done, we resolutely looked for our own mistakes. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? Though a situation had not been entirely our fault, we tried to disregard the other person involved entirely. Where were we to blame? The inventory was ours, not the other man's. When we saw our faults, we listed them. We placed them before us in black and white. We admitted our wrongs honestly and were willing to set these matters straight.
Okay, so look at what he says here. He says, we're going to refer to our list, first three columns, right? On the front of the sheet.
Okay.
You can see
Hang
it.
on. Here, show this one. There we go. That can see it. I got to redo this. You're fine. So on the sheet, there we go.
There's the first three columns. It says, put out of your mind the wrongs others had done, right? Turn the sheet over. Now you're not looking at the wrongs that they did, right? Look for our own mistakes. And on the other side, stop looking at them. Put out of your mind the wrongs they did. Well, you just put it in your mind. Now we're going to put out of our mind the wrongs others have done. We're just going to look for where I made mistakes in my relationship with my dad in its entirety. The whole relationship. For
the
example.
whole relationship.
Yeah, not just the events, just the whole thing. How did I show up with him? Where had I been selfish? Write that and see what starts to come. Just ask that question and start to write things that you were, where was I selfish? And just write and see what happens. I got thoughts in my mind just asking that question that were not of my mind. They were not my thoughts.
Where'd it come from?
Who cares? I really don't care. All
Right,
I know
right.
is they weren't my ideas and they came into my mind and I was an atheist. In fact, the voice said to me, Rick. Sounded like my voice in my head. Now, why
your
would I
voice.
say Rick to myself? That bothered me a lot, but it happened. So I put out of your mind the wrongs others had done and resolutely look for your own mistakes. Mistake. Take one. That was a bad take. Take two. Take three. Mistakes.
Okay.
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 Where had I been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? We left a place to write each one of those on the sheet. Okay. You can download these and print them off.
I
Of
put the
the-
link here. I'll put it
on
on
the
again.
website.
Yep.
Okay. Then Bill says, though a situation had not been entirely our fault, right?
We'll give you that.
Yeah, we'll give you that much. It's not entirely your fault. But what's he say then?
We tried to disregard the other person involved entirely.
Entirely. Not sort of, not a little.
No parts.
No part. Do you see why this isn't about my part? If you put out of your mind the wrongs others had done, there is no other part. Here, maybe it's easier this way. If you're looking for your part, you haven't put out of your mind the wrongs others had done. That's how basic this is. Look for your own mistakes and start to write and see what comes. I had very rarely gotten past selfish. Where was I selfish? And all of a sudden, a stream of thoughts came, and my goodness, it changed everything.
It's the auditorium, right? That you guys
Yeah.
do the 4-step.
Yeah. I saw that my story wasn't accurate on the front. Not that there weren't some truth in the story, but I saw that my dad was not the reason my life was a mess. My life was a mess because of me, not because of anything that happened in my childhood.
And up until this point, though, you'd been blaming your dad for.
Of course,
Yep.
of course.
Okay.
Human nature. And I saw it. So I didn't see that I was bad. I saw that I was wrong. Well, what's the matter with being wrong? It's devastating. If you've been telling yourself a story that isn't accurate, hating someone else and treating them accordingly. How do you treat somebody who ruined your life? Well, you know how you treat them. Oh yeah, you slander them.
Yeah.
You gossip around them. When you are around them, you're negative, you're abusive, rude. Oh yeah,
We go out of our way.
absolutely. And I realized I was wrong, and I realized I owed him an amend. That didn't mean that the events didn't happen where he drank through my childhood, divorced my mother when I was a kid, and she ends up marrying somebody else and commits suicide the night of my 15th birthday. Doesn't mean those events didn't happen, but that's not why my life was a mess. All those events happened, but that's not why my life was a mess. My life was a mess because I made stupid choices out of selfishness and it fell apart. And I didn't want to be responsible. So I wanted to put it on somebody else. Then I hated my dad for what I did to myself. Now, who are you
Think
hating?
of that. Yeah.
Who are you hating
Self.
when you're hating somebody for ruining your life? And somewhere in your mind, you know you made the choices, but you project the blame onto somebody else and then hate somebody else for ruining your life. But who ruined your life?
Self.
So you're hating yourself outside of yourself. So what are you going to do then? When you see them differently, you're going to forgive yourself by seeing them differently.
I hope you guys are listening on this.
My judgment toward myself for what I did to Pam and my own kids, the self-hatred that I carried, the self-loathing, the depression lifted when I saw my dad differently. Why? Because I was no longer pouring energy into hating somebody for those things. You understand?
Yeah.
I did the same thing to my own family. He did his.
Yeah.
Broke the family.
I said it's freeing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Huge.
telling some of your own story or some stuff, but you shared a letter once with the
Yeah.
4-step workshop, I believe.
Yeah.
That you had gotten from your father. Well, I don't know if it was on his deathbed or it was
Huh?
something. You got a letter from your dad.
Right.
It
But
was,
there's a whole story around that.
yeah.
We
I
really
just-
haven't got
but
time.
it was in
you know.
lieu of basically you doing
The inventory.
inventory.
Well, it was look, I was an atheist, okay, and I was an atheist when I wrote this, so I didn't believe in God. I just couldn't stand how I felt.
Right.
So I'm willing to see this differently. Okay, that's the attitude. Perfect.
Yeah.
Can't do any better than that.
Yeah.
So I went into that with that in mind. Okay, and then I started to ask these questions, and I started to have thoughts. And I was getting a direct revelation from somewhere, and it was not from me, at least from my human mind.
Right.
So things were revealed to me. That's why I can't tell you how to forgive something. I can show you the mechanics so you can set up the experience. And then if you write it, you'll have your own experience. Nobody can tell you how to forgive this stuff. They don't know all the facts. They don't know the events. They don't know what went on before or after. Anybody who thinks they can do that is arrogant, as far as I'm concerned.
Rick stands on what he shares because he shared about his own experience about stuff too.
It's absolute arrogance.
And everyone, Tracy and Matt and Ryan and John and Chucky and you know what? Sorry, everyone, Jason, a big bro, Wes Scott, everyone who's been piping in, like, you're right. This is awesome. Forgiveness is powerful. Freeing is the part of this program that we love.
I couldn't forgive the truth. I had to forgive my illusions of what I thought was true.
Yeah.
Didn't mean things didn't happen. Just meant that's not why my life was a mess.
Right. The things Rick shares about in my mind, the things that go through my head while he's sharing, I'm like, just a full circle. I love this aspect of full circle of how we're at this point. Then you share about something, we get full circle to better, getting better. A therapist, someone on I don't know. I don't know if it's anywhere. We do self therapy in here. But we figured something out on here that I don't know, people go to therapy for 30, 40 years and
I
still don't get to this
I
point.
got nothing against therapists. They're doing the best they can. Not only that, but you're going there telling them a story based on what you think is true.
Yes.
And you're not even, you don't know what's true.
Right.
But you're telling them that, and they're trying to deal with what you're telling them and trying to help you forgive. So they have no facts.
Right.
There's no way they can do it. It's impossible.
I've not heard Rick's not talking down on therapy.
They do the best they can
with
you know?
what they've got.
And sometimes maybe somebody will have an awakening somehow. I don't know. I hope so, but it's few and far between, unfortunately, I think.
So we're gonna get to wrapping up, it looks like. But could you guys just share again, give some details about the 4-step workshop? There's a lot of people really enjoy what you guys have been sharing about Tracy. They're gonna give some info right now about it. And I think they do a fellowship every Wednesday after. They've been doing this awesome Saigon place, but go ahead and tell us about it. Where is it at again? What time? And
It's at 2218
First Avenue
First
South.
Avenue South in Minneapolis in the auditorium, which is like the lower
back.
in the back.
6:30
6:30 to 7:45
every Wednesday.
p.m. and every Wednesday, and it's continuous, ongoing. You can pop in at any time. And we have printouts of how it works, chapter 5, so you really don't need to bring anything.
But it'd be nice if you brought your big book.
Yeah, if you brought your big book. And then we hand out the inventory worksheets as well. And there's 3, the resentment, fear, inventory, and sex conduct. And we go through it line by line.
And the sex
slowly.
isn't really a sex conduct inventory. It's a conduct inventory around relationships that were sexual.
That was very helpful for me.
Go ahead. Yes. And the big book thing is, if you don't have one, you need one, reach out to me. We've gotten a bunch of books donated to the show. And if you need a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, reach out to me and I'll get you one. We got a scholarship here at 228 oh my goodness. Down here, we'll work for recovery that someone donated to the Attitude for Gratitude podcast. So reach out. We'll get you a 12 and 12, a big book, whatever you need. We got people committing to showing up. That's awesome. Let them know that you're there from the show, or don't just show up. That's what matters. So here's what we're going to do real quick.
The question.
Pick a number 1 through 100.
Let's do 60.
I've come to notice a lot of people end up picking the same numbers. They just forget.
Yeah.
All right.
I know I didn't pick.
Say you're independently wealthy and don't have to work. What would you do with your time?
Dog rescue.
Oh, nice.
All day long.
Quick answer.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's my dream.
You guys have one of the best dog rescue stories. That I don't know if it made it such a beautiful story just by how detailed you explained that dog was, how bad he really was, burnt up, just beat. And you guys rescued him. And I met him. Good little pooch. I think he almost took a finger off.
Yep.
That was because I was being fidgety. Pick a number 1 through 100.
77.
77.
You picked that last time.
Did I?
All right.
I
Well,
think you did.
Okay, well, let's do a different one then.
all right.
Let's do 3.
3. What is one goal you'd like to accomplish during your lifetime that you haven't already?
I don't have any goals.
That's a horrible one for him.
I don't.
Pick a number 1 through 100.
Try 7.
27.
7.
Oh, 7. What's your favorite thing to do in the winter?
Go to Mexico.
Go to Mexico.
Nice. Misty, pick a number 1 through 100.
50.
50. You have your own late night talk show. Who's your very first guest that you have on, alive or dead?
Jesus.
And who's the second guest?
Alive or dead? Norm McDonald.
He's dead now.
I know.
Oh.
He's dead. He's funny
Yeah,
as hell.
he is
He
way
was
funny.
Yeah.
Late night talk show host. You could have anyone on, alive or dead. Who?
Oh. Boy, I don't
He
know.
wants it to be the right answer. He doesn't want it.
I'm just trying to think.
Yeah.
Who the hell I really give it? I don't have that. I mean, people
Joseph.
don't impress me that much.
What
anymore.
about that? I've heard so many stories about the
Joseph.
sponsor fella.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, Joseph? Yeah.
I can't tell you who you'd have on. I don't know.
It might not
Pick
be-
a number 1 through 100.
That's a pretty good one, Joseph.
That was your woman favorite.
Yeah, I can answer your question.
I know you got them both right so far. Pick a number 1 through 100.
6.
What's your favorite thing to do in the summer? Is it
Sex in the golf course.
sex on the golf course?
But he usually golfs by himself.
Yeah.
You stole his
Did
punchline.
Did I tell you about my
Hang on,
first?
I have that.
Did I tell you about my first experience?
No.
Yeah. It was dark. I was afraid, and I was alone.
And that was the wrong one. It's
That was
supposed
a,
to be
that was a danger field. That was a danger field one.
All right. Let's do this then, and then we'll wrap. Name of the show, Attitude for Gratitude. Rick, what's your gratitude looking like?
What's it like?
Yeah, what's your gratitude look like today?
Oh, I got a lot of gratitude. I just did a gratitude list coming out of a meditation earlier. I thank God for my life just the way it is, not with anything different. Try that for a while.
Yeah, that's deep. Get a shovel.
I'll give you a good prayer that you might want to try. Ask God to treat you today exactly the way you treated everybody yesterday.
That's a deep, deep one. You guys hear Chucky blowing his horn?
Yeah.
He might come in just in time to deliver some soap. He plays that shofar. Has he done it in here before? It's the horn they use at the gates of Jericho.
Oh,
It sounds like the Vikings horn.
It's badass. Yeah, I'm gonna have it. He's gonna come. All right, what's your gratitude look like, Misty?
Gratitude, I think, like, I was really grateful to go to Gopher State again, and it like inspired me to go through my inventory again, and the revelations, I found new stuff about myself.
Turn it off.
Oh, that's
Go. Turn that sound off.
it sounded better the second.
I'm sorry about that.
It's okay. Yeah.
Just a little. But he has the biggest heart anyone you'll ever meet. And he's listening to everything I'm saying. Okay. 4-Step Workshop is every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. at 2218 First Avenue South in the auditorium, lower level. Misty, tell me about your gratitude again. We got interrupted, and I'm sorry about that.
My gratitude, I was grateful to go to Gopher State. Like, some of the speakers really, I could hear them, and it like inspired me to do more, or again, an inventory just recently. And I discovered some other things about myself that I didn't know, and it was freeing. And my fear inventory, and everything that I've been going through in my head, it just kind of lifted, and I don't know. So that's what I'm grateful that I'm not carrying that crap around today.
What we did go over some 4-Step stuff. Is there anything you want to just leave the audience with about what we went over today, Rick or Misty? Go ahead. Someone who's attempting to get after doing the 4-Step. If I'm not mistaken, you read through it and did it solo the first time, right?
Yeah.
And it worked.
And it only takes about
keep
10
human
minutes.
beings out of it.
Yeah.
You know?
And it, like, when I first came into sobriety, I thought everyone was so afraid about doing the inventory. And I was too, just based on what people were telling me. And it really doesn't take that long. You don't need to go through your whole history, what's bothering you right now. And that's really, and you get so much relief based on it. It takes like 10 minutes to go through an inventory.
I told this story once. I know I bugged you about it, but it was 7-8 years ago. I was just fresh and maybe 3 months clean, sober. New Hope Alano and Johnny Olson had you come in and speak. That dude who always wore that weird hat. He's since
dead.
passed. Yeah, smoked cigarettes. Stuff. I think he had lung cancer.
He did.
Smoked his way right to. He didn't care. and you came in and shared about 4-step stuff, and I was on my 4-step, and now I know you, but then I did, and I was enamored with how you're sharing, and I had a fucking booklet of all this, all these things. This 3rd grade, this
Yeah.
5th grade, this. You're like, no. I just read. You made it. You helped me out a lot, and then when I took it to my sponsor, he's like, yeah, exactly what he said. I was sure we had to go over here. I had a fucking Bible and stuff. Well, now I'm trying to drone on so Chucky can get back down here. I'm sure he's gonna come in with some soap and tell you guys how much he loves you or whatever. Well, then what I'm gonna do is real quick kind of wrap up, and if he's not here in time, we gotta just end the show.
Okay.
You heard us talk about 2218, the 4-step workshop. That's where the show started. Come get involved. Come be part of. We've got the spring fling coming up on the 7th down at Boom Island, all day long event. We got barbecue. We're doing bingo, giveaways, minnow races, hula hoop contests. The theme is a luau. We have music. It's going to be a blast. So come on down, get involved. We got tons of. I got put in charge of donations and raffles. So I got a bunch of stuff. So come on down. Chucky's here. Yep, come on, belly up. And I believe. Oh, you brought your pooch.
Hey, Pookie.
One of the softest dogs I've ever petted.
This might fit in with tonight's conversation.
Wow, that's a big one.
That's it.
We're just wrapping up, Chucky. So belly
Oh,
up.
thank you.
You're gonna play us out with a prayer
Yeah.
and a shofar. That's the soul of hope. That's for you guys.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Again.
We got
Oh, that's okay.
Sit down and get comfy. We'll be done out of here in 3 minutes. I got you. 3 minutes, we're out. I just want to let you guys know if you're out there struggling, please reach out. You heard us talk about a lot of stuff tonight. Come get some of it. It's here for the taking. 4026 Washington Avenue North. On the 12th, we're doing a cleaning down here. Carolyn's gonna feed you guys like good food. But serious, come get involved, be part of, not apart from, and get involved. Just be willing. A lot of this starts with willingness. You heard Rick share about that. So we love you. We're gonna play out Chucky. Our guests have to get rolling, so that's what we're gonna do. Chucky, you are. Wait.
Live.
Hi.
You're not high. Congratulations, Chuck, on hitting 90 days.
95 days.
Congratulations, brother. Celebrate clean time.
And it's appropriate that I'm coming in when I am now because this is the prayer that Jesus would do at the conclusion of the service to the disciples and the crowds, the masses. This prayer, him being high priest, this is the exact same prayer that he would have, and it's in the Bible, this prayer. It's on the thing right here. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So this is the prayer that we'll use in closing, and should we summons God with the?
You do, yeah, dude. I'm gonna
Okay.
turn on your reverb, and you have the rest of the show. So you're gonna end it.
Sounds great. I can't hear nothing in there. Is that okay?
That's because I had you turned down. You go ahead, Chuck.
Hello, testing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. So this is the horn this is the trumpet that they used to take down the walls of Jericho. And tonight we're going to use it to take down the walls of Jericho that are around us. So the sound of this is summoning God, and it's for a blessing. And here we go. It's kind of loud. So.
Yeah.
now that we've summoned God, this is the prayer that Jesus, as high priest, would have said to the disciples. Yivarechecha Adonai Vayishmorecha Ya'er Adonai Penavalecha Vichunecha Yaseh Adonai Penavalecha V'yasem lecha shalom. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he shine his face upon you and be gracious to you. And may he turn his face towards you and give you peace. In Jesus' precious name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chucky. We'll talk to you guys next week. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Perfect.